Last week I mentioned Dallas Willard and his line, "The Gospel of Sin Management." At the beginning of the book, The Divine Conspiracy, Willard tells the story of a pilot practicing high-speed maneuvers in a jet fighter. She turned the controls for what she thought was a steep ascent, but flew straight into the ground. Flying at such speeds caused her to become disoriented. She was spun up, and she was unaware that she had been flying upside down. He goes on to say that this image serves as a parable of human existence in our times. Not exactly that everyone is crashing, though there is enough of that, but most of us as individuals and world society as a whole live at high speed, and often with no clue as to whether we're flying upside down or right side up. Indeed, we're haunted by a strong suspicion that there may be no difference, or at least that it is unknown or irrelevant. Now, I'm sure we can all remember this type of life, living at high speed and losing a sense of which way was up and which way was down. I've had a number of conversations during this season of life where people have highlighted some benefits of the world shutting down due to the global pandemic. Their lives have slowed down. People are playing again. Families are spending time again. We're gaining a new clarity of what's possible. When we consider all this, in light of the perspective that comes to us through the teachings of Jesus, perhaps we would do well to lean into the disruption of this time, to take the opportunity to reevaluate our approach to life, and perhaps re-envision it in light of the truth that comes to us from Jesus. Friends, let's learn to fly right side up once again. This summer, we're taking a stroll through the Beatitudes, that portion of Scripture that kicks off Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Over the first 2 weeks, we looked at how Jesus declares that it's the poor in spirit, it's the humble that are blessed and happy. And then last week, we looked at how it's those that mourn that are blessed and happy, and they will be comforted. If you missed those but are curious about how I unpacked them, I invite you to go back and check them out on our website. Now Jesus continues this week, and he says in Matthew 5:5, he says, "Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. If you remember back to the first week of the series, the Greek word translated blessed is the word makarios. And on top of blessed, it carries connotations of our understanding of the word lucky, and it also means happy. So happy, lucky, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Meek. Meek. I want you to take a moment to try to picture someone who is meek. Try to picture it in your mind. What kind of person is it? What do they look like? What sort of role do they play in society? What's left for a meek person? Now, is it the type of person that you initially want to be? If you're honest, do you want to be like all the meek people that you may have envisioned when I asked you to? Because other than hearing it in this passage of Scripture, I bet few of us would consider meekness an admirable quality. Now, in Greek, the word that's translated meek is the word praus. And it's actually a somewhat difficult term to translate. Because while meek, it does mean that, it also carries nuances of gentle, considerate, courteous, and then possessing the capacity to exercise the strength of self-control necessary to make these things possible. So all of this is encapsulated in this word. So far from being weak, which we sometimes associate with the word meek. Far from being weak, meekness is about an inner strength, a strength that is under control, a strength that is under control. Now, think of the last 2 weeks. Having a right view of Christ and his greatness and authority causes us to have a right view of ourselves. The result is that we are poor in spirit. It causes us to be humble. And then when we see the brokenness of the world, knowing that it's not supposed to be this way, we mourn it. We can mourn it. We mourn the chaos. We mourn the brokenness. But we also take comfort in the fact that Christ is putting all the broken pieces of the world back together. With this in view, we catch a glimpse of how small a part we play in the whole narrative. And in gratitude for the work of Christ, we meekly step forward and gently lean in. We meekly step forward and we gently lean in. Gentle, considerate, courteous, all emerging from a strength of self-control. Now, friends, a quick look at our world, and it's clear that general wisdom says that it takes a certain mindset to go out and get yours, a certain mindset to win. And it's the domineering, the aggressive, the harsh, the tyrannical, the quick-witted, the fill in the blank. You're not usually going to use the word meek. These that win in our world often attempt to force themselves on the earth, and they try to establish their own little kingdoms. These are the winners. These are the titans of business and commerce. These are the trendsetters, and all too often we look and maybe even find their lives compelling. There's something interesting about it. But when we take a breath, when we pause, when we step back, and we consider the reality of it all too often they set such a pace for themselves that little do they know that they're flying too fast, they're pushing too hard, and they lose a proper sense of orientation. They lose a sense of which way is up and which way is down. And they often leave loved ones flailing behind them. Like the pilot I mentioned earlier, unless they find a way to recorrect their bearings, to get a sense of where they are, they will remain disoriented, lonely, and they may even crash. Think about the many problems created in our world by those set on winning and domination, without care of who they need to step on in order to get to the top. That's selfish. They're the center of their own universe. They're out to get theirs. Yet Jesus says it's the meek. It's the meek, it's the gentle, it's the considerate, it's the courteous, that all have the capacity to exercise strength of self-control, who will inherit the earth. That's about flying right side up. Flying with an orientation on true reality, a reality set by Jesus Christ. It's a reality that shifts our focus from self to others. It's living out the simple idea that other people matter. Other people matter. When you're walking down the street, and you see someone clearly navigating difficult days, sitting on the sidewalk with what's left of their stuff strewn around them, hair tousled, clothes ragged and dirty, and they are asking for a little bit of help. Every time that happens, we make a decision of whether other people matter or not. We make a decision of whether other people matter or not. Now, I know it's complicated. I know we're bombarded by needs each and every day. And yes, I know that there are complicated factors at play here. But friends, when we adopt a fiercely meek posture, one that doesn't take ourselves too seriously. We recognize that we're not the center of it all. So whatever we have on the other side of our trip down the sidewalk, that meeting, that event, that destination, may not be quite as important as that human being that's right there in front of us. Wherever we're going may matter, but it's not so important that we can't see the basic humanity of this dearly loved one before us. Now, I think there's times where following Jesus means we lean in and actually help. We actually provide aid to the one who seeks it. We help provide food, something to drink. Perhaps we give time and attention. We give them a moment to find out their name, hear a bit of their story, share something of ourselves. We meet them as a fellow human being. But then other times I actually think it is fine to simply make eye contact, to give a friendly smile, to say hello, to let them know that they're seen, acknowledging their existence. Now, that seems like the bare minimum of actualizing and understanding that other people matter. And again, I know it's complicated. I know that some of you listening may not be liking what I'm saying because it's uncomfortable. It's our comfort zone, and we have to be pushed outside of that in order to love those that have been pushed to the margins of society. But please don't tune me out, friends, even if you aren't liking what I'm saying. Allow some of what I'm saying to swirl around you and inside of you, and maybe, just maybe, let it soften your heart. And I want you to consider, how would Jesus see this beloved one in front of you? How would Jesus see this person, this dirty, smelly person who's just asking for a little bit of help? How would he see them? How would he respond? What would he do? And then compare it to your own attitude in that moment. What posture do you have towards them? And when you see it in light of how we view Christ, maybe, just maybe, there's something that can and maybe should be done next time. We're being formed and shaped as we actively take steps towards Christ. Friends, this is flying right side up. Conceptions of being meek are difficult. Again, like the humility that comes from a poverty of spirit, I'm not talking about striving to be meek. My encouragement is to take a good, long look at Jesus, to pursue such a clear picture of him and what he is up to in the world, and then we simply follow him. We allow him to shape and form our attitudes and our actions. Now, this process will no doubt allow a new gentleness to emerge. It will allow for new consideration for the other. And it will provide a courteous openness to interacting with people who may initially make us uncomfortable. People we don't understand, people we don't get, but we respond with space for them. And Jesus says it's the meek, those who gently consider that other people matter, that will inherit the earth. Inherit the earth. So we maintain a posture that seeks to truly see others and then provide space for them too. Well, it's actually an approach that mirrors Jesus. I love the interaction that Jesus has with the woman at the well in John chapter 4. In a beautiful interaction, Jesus goes ahead and breaks every social code of his day. He wasn't supposed to be talking to her, and yet he does. And he shows her that he sees her. He affirms her value. He affirms her humanity. He does so to care for her and to help her see truth, help her see himself. And as a result of that interaction, she and many from her town came to believe that Jesus was the Messiah. Jesus, in his meekness, his gentle, courteous consideration of the other, he shows us what it's like to live like other people matter. As we follow in his footsteps, we begin to live now like we're citizens of God's kingdom already. And as we do so, we open the door for a little bit more of God's kingdom to actualize in the here and now. While being meek may not garner the attention and accolades of humanity, it may not get us trending. It may not push us into social influencer territory. But friends, it will be truly living. In following Jesus, we may not get ours here on earth, but that won't matter because we will come to know what it is to live with Christ, to reign with Christ. We will come to enjoy, even possess the earth which belongs to Christ, belongs to King Jesus. Friends, being meek is different than the way of the world, and everyone who follows Jesus into meekness can say, like the apostle in 2 Corinthians 6, that having nothing and yet possessing everything. Having nothing yet possessing everything. Following Jesus and being meek is a way to fly right side up in the world where all too often others around us find themselves disoriented and at risk of crashing. Following Jesus allows us to live with the conviction that other people matter. And following Jesus enables us to be gentle, considerate, and courteous, all managed and maintained by a strength of self-control. Friends, Jesus said, "Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth."